After months of waiting, the Steam Machine is finally here, and in today's video, we're going to cover everything I can possibly find: the release date, the price, the reservation system. I'm just going to go through the entire page because there's a ton of info, including a Q&A from Valve. How's it going? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about Steam hardware, and I just got to start this video with a big whew, it's finally here. It's finally real. I'm literally shaking from like adrenaline. I can't believe this thing is finally in people's hands with full test videos out that I have to go watch. But yeah, most of the people who watch this channel are not subscribed. So if you're one of those people, help me out by subscribing and setting your notifications to all. But I think this is going to be a long video, so let's get into it. So yeah, like Valve said from the jump, there are 4 different SKUs of the Steam Machine available. They didn't change their minds on that. Even with the Rampocalypse, there's 2 with controller, 2 without, 512, 2 terabyte. Everything is as they announced it. And yeah, we'll just get right into the price. It's pretty expensive. They're at $1049 as the starting price for 512 without controller, and then it just goes up from there. 512 with controller is $1,128. 2 terabyte without controller is $1,349. 2 terabyte with controller is $1,428. Now, something interesting is they did actually give a discount for the controller that comes with the bundle. It's $69 instead of $100, so you're saving a little bit of money there, which is good because these prices are pretty expensive. So my thoughts on the price are I'm pretty numb to it at this point. I mean, everything's expensive. I was trying to buy a USB 3.0 HDD to just store my videos on, and even those are like hundreds of dollars more than they were 6 months ago. So no matter what electronic it seems like you're trying to buy, you're going to be paying more than you want to. $1049 in the context of where everything is at in terms of, you know, everything being expensive, it's still pretty high. I would say like a little bit higher than I think I would want it to be. I wish they could have got in at around $800, $900, maybe even $950. Having it $50 more than even $1,000 kind of stings a little bit. Like I would have preferred it be just a flat $999 if they knew they were going to have to approach $1,000. But I still think there are people out there like me, I'm just going to be real with you guys, who are willing to pay this price because I just understand the reality of the situation. I mean, even after the past couple of weeks, I thought it had peaked and it was starting to come down, but it seems like we are in the beginning of it, and it's just going to continue to get worse as we make our way through 2026 into 2027, and then hopefully by the end of 2027 is when we'll see prices start to come down. I think out of all the companies between Sony, Microsoft, Valve, and Nintendo and Valve would be the ones that would eventually lower the price. That's just my opinion. I have nothing to base that on. So like your choices are pay a potentially higher price to get in early and cross your fingers that the prices go down after a couple of years, or the worst case scenario is this is the cheapest it will ever be, because as we know, Valve is just simply not immune to raising the price down the line. So it creates this weird sort of FOMO that, you know, they're not trying to create. It's not their design to make it cheaper when it comes out and then jack the prices up later on to make people feel like they missed out. It's just like if you want to sell a hardware product in this era, even if you're trying to break even or even take a little bit of a loss, like this is just where things sit. And I know people think they can go out and build a PC with the same specs or even better specs and pay the same price. I look this up all the time because I'm always looking at new gaming laptops, new desktop pre-builts and everything. Good luck. If you've got parts laying around, that's a completely different story, especially if you have a GPU or CPU or most importantly RAM, then you can get in this price level, I would say, and get similar if not better performance. But if you're just starting from scratch, especially if you're going for small form factor, I mean, anywhere you look, PCs are just going to be in that $1,000 starting price going forward for the next couple of years. So that's the reality of the situation. Doesn't make it sting any less, if we're being honest. But I've been excited for this thing for a long time. I'm in it for the long haul with Valve hardware. So I'm trying my best to get it day one. And the reason I say that is because A, we all know Valve doesn't send me anything. And B, there's a lottery system for getting your hands on this thing on day one. So right now on the Steam Machines page, you can join the waitlist for all 4 models. They say later on in the Q&A we'll cover that you can join all 4 and it's a separate lottery for each one. You have to do it before June 25th, and then when it closes down at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, it's a random selection. And yes, you do have to have an account in good standing. You have to have made a purchase before April 27th. So hopefully this cuts down on scalpers. Obviously, I have a different take than most normal people out there, I would say, who just want to get their hands on this to play games on, which is ultimately ultimately what I want to do. But knowing that realistically, I'm not going to get anything from Valve, it really stresses me out that I'm going to have to just cross my fingers that I get in on the lottery system early. But that's what happened to me with the Steam Deck. I was able to get one day one and it was pretty tough, but I don't think that's going to happen this time around. So you might have to wait a little bit for my full review video. I'm going to buy whichever one I get in on. That's the sacrifice I guess I have to make to get a video out quicker. I think my perfect choice would be the 2 TB without controller. $1349 is higher than I'd like to pay, but still it's lower than $1,500, which was my absolute limit. And I already have 2 controllers. So hopefully I get in on that one, but whichever one comes first is the one I'm unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which one it is, going to have to buy. As far as the release date goes, they're going to start shipping on June 30th. They'll start emailing people on June 29th. So they are getting it out before the first half of 2026 ends. So summer ended up being June. That's good. I really appreciate that. I'm happy about it. And before I jumped on camera here, I was able to watch some videos. I highly recommend Digital Foundry's videos because not only do they test the raw performance compared to other GPUs, they test it against the PS5, which is the most similar spec, I would say, to what the Steam Machine is going for, with the exact settings that the PS5 uses. So it's a pretty one-to-one comparison. And I'm happy to say that for the most part, outside of a few specific games, it pretty much holds its own against the PS5. So you're going to get a tailored graphical experience for consoles, which is like the perfect middle ground between performance and quality. So you know it's going to be basically on par with the PS5. And the win there for Valve and anyone who buys the Steam Machine is that the PS5 is sticking around for a long time. Sony's in a tough spot. They're going to have to release a very expensive console next year. So just like this generation, the PS5 is sticking around for a while. So there's always going to be games that target the performance level of the Steam Machine, probably a lot longer than they initially would have if the Rampocalypse didn't start in the first place. So I guess that is a silver lining. But yeah, they tested some heavy hitting games like Alan Wake 2, Doom the Dark Ages, Cyberpunk's Phantom Liberty expansion, and it was doing just fine in those. Of course, the harder the game is to run, the more accepting of a 30 FPS target you're going to have to be. But for what this is, which is essentially a PC disguised as a console, I think that's absolutely fine, especially considering if you want much better performance, you're going to be paying a lot more money. Like, again, it sucks to say, this is the entry level now. $1,000 PCs are the entry level. That is nuts. Oh, and I forgot to mention this, but both 2 TB come with extra faceplates. You get 2, a wood grain one and a red fabric one. But yeah, that's the top level info you absolutely need to know. But for the Valve sickos like me, let's go through their Q&A at the bottom because there's a ton of good, interesting info in it. So the first thing they do is explain the randomized reservation system. And they said, we underestimated customer interest when we released the new Steam controller, and we wanted to create a system that would be less frustrating and more fair for everyone. And then they talk about how mashing F5 just creates undue stress. So like having an email line where they can email you, you pay for the thing or you don't. It just creates a more stress-free environment. But now it's just going to create the same waiting game as the controller where people are having to wait until 2027 to get their hands on it. There's no great solution here, right? Like it's a very supply limited device with pretty high demand. It still seems like even with the higher prices. So I appreciate that they're going out of their way to try and solve this issue that's extremely nebulous. And either way, as much as it sucks for me, again, as someone who wants to make videos on this stuff as fast as possible, I think this is a decent scenario where, you know, the scalpers aren't going to be able to get their hands on it by mashing F5 or using a Discord bot or using an auto clicker, and then it'll just be less stressful overall. So I think ultimately this is heading in the right direction, and it's not a perfect fix, but I'm not even sure if there is a perfect fix. And I'm glad that they're putting some effort in with each release of each piece of hardware to make it a better system overall. I already mentioned this, but if you missed it, they list the criteria for the reservation system. They say you must have a Steam account in good standing. You must have made a purchase on Steam prior to April 27th, 2026. And there's 1 sign up per household. We will use payment method, shipping address, and other information to eliminate multiple entries. So if you have multiple Steam accounts or multiple people in your house, unfortunately, you get 1 reservation. It seems like they're going to be careful about it. So I wouldn't even try because yeah, they say they're going to delete the extras. So I would say your best option is to sign up for all 4 wait lists if you want to get your hands on any Steam machine with 1 account and just hope your reservation comes up quickly. And if you miss the June 25th cutoff and get in late, you're kicked to the back of the line. So again, if you want to get your hands on this thing, make sure you sign up before June 25th. When I'm recording this, it's the 22nd. So you've got 3 days to figure it out. It's not that hard. It's clicking 4 buttons, up to 4 buttons. So do that if you want to get one. Like I mentioned earlier, they say you don't have to pick one model. If you have one that you really want in mind, just sign up for that one. But if you just want a Steam machine, they say sign up for all 4, and they all have different lists. So whichever one comes up first, most likely which one you should buy if you want to get your hands on it quickly. That's the boat I'm in, of course, because I need to get it faster. So I'm going to get whichever one comes up first. We know with the Steam Deck, most people went for the most expensive. So I'm assuming it'll probably be the 512 with controller. That's just the one that feels right to me, the one that people are going to want the least, right? Because once you're in the controller realm, you're like, I may as well get more storage, right? Like, yeah, it has an SD card slot, that's cool, but like getting as much storage as possible on board just seems like it makes the most sense. And if you got the money, you got the money. So you're probably going to go for the 2 terabyte without controller. Then they reiterate that if you only have one in mind, sign up for that wait list. But if you just want one as fast as possible, sign up for all 4 and buy the one that comes up first. That's obviously what I did, but you got to do what works for you. And this next one's important. You need to make sure you get an email from Steam for each waitlist spot. So I got 4 separate emails, one for each different Steam machine. If you only have 3, unsubscribe from the one you didn't get and resubscribe, because again, it's randomized. So like when June 25th at 10 a.m. hits, it's going to go through everyone and just pick at random. So like leaving the list and joining before June 25th isn't going to hurt anything. Wait for the email. Make sure you get the email. That's super, super important. After that, they say they're starting to send out emails for ordering it on June 29th. So start checking your email on June 29th. I would imagine it'll be probably a week or 2 long process getting through the first wave. And they do confirm that as people cancel their waitlist spots, you will be moved up the list. That doesn't mean it'll come much faster, but that'll help in the long run in terms of how quickly you'll be able to order one of these bad boys. And towards the end, it gets really interesting. They say, is this the Valve console? They say, we think of Steam Machine as an extension of PC gaming, not a console. The traditional console model is to sell hardware at a loss and make up the revenue with subscription service or by selling games that are locked into the hardware. We think this can make sense for a single business in the short term, but that open ecosystems are better for customers over the long term. PC gaming's history proves this. The openness of PC gaming has enabled it to be the primary driver of hardware and software innovation for decades. The strength of PC gaming is the ability to play games you want on the hardware you want. Steam Machine is a solution to these problems, and we think it's a great one, but it's not the only solution, and we don't want it to be. So that's explaining why they're not taking a massive loss to make it $500. It's for people who want to get in on Valve's hardware and Valve's ecosystem, aka me, and probably a big chunk of you. And then the final thing they address is that in terms of openness, SteamOS is installable on other devices. So if you don't get the Steam Machine as quick as you want, you can go build your own PC, you can buy a pre-build, you can make sure that it has all AMD because that'll make it easier, but they do reiterate that they're working on supporting more hardware configurations. So hopefully anyone who wants to use SteamOS on their PC will be supported, and then the people who want the Steam Machine will be able to give Valve their money and get their hands on it. So overall, pretty good Q&A, kind of just explains everything that's going on. And yeah, that brings me to the end of the video. Obviously, I wanted it to be $800 or less. That didn't happen. So like I have a little bit of disappointment in my heart of hearts, but at $1049, it's pretty much the realistic angle I was expecting. You know, I try to be optimistic. I try to always have hopium. That's what I've always said. But the realist in me was like, yeah, it's going to be $999 and up. I was a little off there by $50, but considering everything that's going on, I know they're doing the best they can, and I'm still excited for this thing. But, you know, I just understand the reality of what's going on, and it seems like it's going to be a tough couple of years if you're looking at getting new hardware. Hopefully you have a Steam Deck. Hopefully you have an Ally. Hopefully you have a Legion Go. Hopefully you have a pre-built already. But for the people who are out there who don't have any option to play PC games, I feel for you, man. I mean, there are cheaper options out there, like used original Allies you can get for $350 and then upgrade the SSD for expensive money, or upgrade the battery for cheap. Like, it just depends how much money you're willing to spend on this stuff. But for me, I'm in it for the long haul with Valve hardware. I'm in it for the long haul with SteamOS. I want the first party sort of device, the first party software experience tailored for that hardware. And yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. I just realized the Steam Frame was not announced today, so we've got another launch coming up soon. I think that thing is going to be even more expensive. I just think a VR headset even with, using different parts like ARM architecture and stuff, I feel like that's going to be the real sticker shock if the Steam machine's at 1049. So we'll wait and see. I'm not tuned into VR as much as I am the handheld and PC and console side of things, but it's interesting. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, guys, that's all I've got for you in today's video. I got to go watch a bunch of videos from people who got their hands on it early, and I will have a bunch of videos here on the channel over this week. So if you're new here, subscribe, set your notifications to all. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.